Let's go through what we'll be doing in the practical, so when we actually implement the steps, you'll be able to understand it better. So our first practical will be stateless cluster deployment. This practical involves deploying a stateless application called Guestbook. The application contains three deployments, one for the front end, as you can see here, deployment 1, one for the Redis master, which is called deployment 2, in this picture, and the third deployment is the Redis slaves pods. So altogether, we'll be deploying, there's actually 3 pods for the front end, but we'll go into that when we have a look at the .yaml file. All deployments have attached services with only the front end service open to external traffic. So there is a service attached to this deployment here, using a load balancer option. So load balancer can expose the endpoint to external traffic, as discussed before. Deployment 2 and 3 is considered backend services or backend deployments, and handles data that comes through the front end pods, reaches the Redis master pod, and then the master pod forwards the requests or the data processing workload to the Redis slave pods. We'll have a look at the .yaml file, the YAML file, which defines these objects later, and then we'll notice that even though there are services attached to deployment 2 and deployment 3, the service configuration does not allow them to be accessed from external traffic. So the learning targets we'll be achieving in this practical will be, we'll use kubectl commands, for example, the kubectl get pods, as we have seen before when we're setting up the cluster. We'll use this to interact with the Kube API server in the master to make changes to and monitor the cluster. We'll see desired state in action. For example, if you delete a pod, it will auto-generate to strive to reach the desired state as defined by the YAML file. Viewing different resources on the cluster such as pods, deployments, services, and logs using kubectl. We'll see the different services options such as load balancer, node port, and cluster IP. You'll see load balancer in action to further your understanding. And you actually see the logs of the requests coming through, which I think is pretty cool. We can scale your front-end pods up and down easily simply by changing the replica number. We perform a rolling update on your front-end application by changing the image used to generate your pods, and see the rolling update in action. Before we start, let's have a look at the YAML files which define these deployments and get you set up with a GCP account, and you have already set up the GCP account if you have reached this point, and the Kubernetes cluster is currently running if you have reached this point. So let's have a look at the YAML file now.